Welcome to Heal into Happy. I invite you to take an adventure with me into your very own universe as I guide you to go within, release your fears, and become empowered to create a life you love. I am your host, Lark Allen. My intention is to help you shine a light on everything that is keeping you from being truly free. You can expect this healing journey to be filled with love, laughter, clarity, and fun. Are you ready to take a leap of faith? Let's go. Welcome back to Heal into Happy. I'm your host, Lark Allen. On the last episode, I interviewed Martin Rutte about Project Heaven on Earth, the 3 simple questions that will help you change the world. Today, I'm excited to continue this conversation with Martin as he shares all of the amazing things he is doing to help bring this project to life. As you listen, I invite you to feel into what your heaven on earth contribution could be. Journal about what brings you into a state of bliss. Living in joy and then sharing your joy with others is a powerful way to be of service. I would love to hear what comes up for you in the comments. Let's help expand Martin's project together. Happy listening.
I've been writing about this recently, Lark, about I. The use of the word I. Actually, I've not spoken about this publicly a lot yet because I'm still writing about it, but I don't know. I feel so comfortable with you and like we've known each other for so long. The word I, capital letter I, it began, as far as I can tell, around 1350 in England. The word before that was ich, which is the German for I, which is spelled lowercase I-C-H. But the CH sound, which is very difficult for non-German speakers to say, instead of saying ich, that was too much trouble. So they dropped the CH, and then they were left with the small letter I. But the problem is, when you start writing I in a sentence, people say, well, wait a minute, did you mean to write is or it or ill, or did you leave it off the last word or the next word? And so they said, well, okay, here's a way to get around that. What if we just capitalized it? Oh, okay, well, that's good. Now everybody knows what I, first person pronoun. And so I developed over these centuries to the point now where I has gone too far. It's very narcissistic. It's only about I. The selfie world, the I world, the greed world. We is what's required now. And we is at a very, very young stage. It's just beginning to emerge. What I see is a healthy we emerging into which a healthy I is part. So that healthy I in the healthy we, that's the next stage of our human evolution, part of the next stage of our human evolution.
I love that. That's so interesting. Yeah, I kind of feels like it can be egoic if you look at it from that kind of perspective. And we feels like we're all in this together. And I love like the analogy of each of us being an important part of the puzzle piece, honoring each of us. The puzzle wouldn't get to happen if it weren't for each of us bringing our special little sparkle to the table. So I love that.
Correct. Now, let me tell you what's happened since I've come up with all of these, with these 3 questions. Over the years, I've seen what I call the gateways. So when you ask these 3 questions over and over and over and over thousands of times, what I began to see was patterns in the answers, what I call the heaven on earth gateways. And so what are they? One is internal. There are people who say, the way you create heaven on earth is by creating it within. The more heaven on earth within, the more it will show up out in the world. So these people go, they take art courses, dance courses, anything to have that divine self come up, or they go to therapy to clean up, hurts and traumas in the past, all of that so they can have more heaven on earth internally. Then we have people who say heaven on earth is about relationships with myself, with another, with others, with God. There are people who say heaven on earth is about living a value, love, harmony, joy. Those people say the more of that big value in the world, the more there will be heaven on earth. Then there are people who say, well, what about the sufferings in the world? So for them, the gateway is end suffering, not make it better, end it. No hunger, no war, no illiteracy, no slavery, no prostitution. The sufferings ended. Then we have people who say, well, what about the institutions? What if religion and government and law and medicine, what if the major institutions of the world, what if their job was co-creating heaven on earth? What would they do? Then there are people who say, well, what about my nation? My nation is a heaven on earth nation. And then there are people who say, no, well, heaven on earth is here right now, but the fact that we don't get it means it's not here. So what you see with each of those gateways, and this is, by the way, all in my book, Project Heaven on Earth, what each of those gateways are saying is, here's the way a number of people think and feel is the way to co-create heaven on earth. And by knowing what those gateways are, if, for example, your gateway is living a value, say love, and this other guy's value is ending hunger, you can have a fight about, no, it's about love. No, it's about hunger. No, it's about love. No. All of us are to support you in getting more love in the world because that's your job. All of us are to support him to ending hunger because that's his job. So when you realize that there are like 7 real strong ways to create gateways to create heaven on earth, and you don't agree with the other ones in the sense that you're not doing those, but you're doing yours, but you get, oh, I get it. All of these count because all of those are the unique expression of the individual. So that's the next piece that I discovered, which are there are gateways, consistently reoccurring patterns of gateways.
Yeah, I love that. We all are bringing our important part to the table and honoring and celebrating that we each have something that lights us up and that we're passionate about. And supporting one another is exactly what we need to be doing. And heaven on earth to me is definitely letting go of us versus them. I feel like there has been so much division, and I see it perpetuating in things, around medical decisions and this and that. And it's time for us to let all of that go and to respect one another's decisions and just feel into all of this. So I love that. Yeah, thank you.
Well, and now let me go to the next piece, which is, let me talk about some of the examples of what people are doing. Because I find that by speaking about the examples, the actual physical, tangible examples in the world, it inspires people. So let's start simple. A woman in Hawaii, Alina Fryer. I did a seminar in Hawaii and she said, well, I can't do, what can I do? I don't. And I said, well, what do you do? Well, I teach people how to grow microgreens, which are little green plants that grow in about 10 days. And then you cut them and you blend them up and you drink them and they're a healthy drink. And I said, oh, okay, so what's heaven on earth for you? And I don't have her exact words, but it was something like to recreate the Garden of Eden. And I went, that's it. Don't you get it? What you're doing with teaching your program is helping to recreate the Garden of Eden. She went, oh my God, you're right. And so she's now embedded in every email that she sends out, her definition of heaven on earth. She asked question number 2, imagine you have a magic wand and with you can have heaven on earth. What's heaven on earth for you? And then she says, for me, and she talks about recreating the garden. Simple. We go to a police officer who's created a 16-page manual called Heaven on Earth for Law Enforcement. Blew me away. We go to, isn't that amazing?
Yes, I love that so much. What's the strongest takeaway? Did you read it? Is it?
Yes. No, so we were talking and I said, Justin, the question popped out of my head. I said, Justin, what's heaven on earth for law enforcement? And without skipping a beat, he said, the end of crime and everybody loving each other.
Oh, how beautiful.
And I went, oh my God, you need to write that up. And so he worked with me and we created this, manual, which is on the website, which is on Project Heaven on Earth under resources.
Wow.
A real estate agent. We were talking and I said, is there a suffering in the world, Brenda, that really bothers you? And she said, yes, homelessness. And she went white. I mean, you could see the deep impact that statement, homelessness, had on her. I said, okay, so what's heaven on earth for homelessness? And she said, well, obviously, a home for everyone. No, but Martin, you don't understand. I work 80 hours a day as a real estate agent, 9 days a week. I'm in a relationship. That takes time, blah, blah, blah. I said, fine. What are you going to do? She went, oh. She goes back to her agency. At that time, she worked in an agency with 10 agents, sits them all down and says, we're going to end homelessness. We're going to create a home for everyone. Easily. Here's how. I'm asking you to agree that every time you sell a home, you will make a $100 donation off your commission check. That's all you have to do is say, yes, we'll look after everything. They said, fine. Last time I spoke to her, she had raised, get this, over $400,000. They had a program called A Home for Everyone. She'd created a logo for it. And by the way, it was capped. The agents could only do $1,200 a year or more if they wanted to, but it was capped. And then every year, individuals and organizations submitted proposals for funding to create a home for everyone. And the jury was each of those 10 agents plus one of their clients. So those 20 people decided where the money went every year.
Wow.
And now she's gone to a new agency. She's done the same thing, only this time it's even smarter. She said, okay, I want $25. Here, she put no cap on it.
I love that.
Everybody goes, sure, fine, easy, simple, no problem. Boom, I'm in. So then we go up to a woman who I was doing a webinar, and she said, you want to know what's suffering in the world? I mean, she was so mad. I'll tell you what's suffering. Violence against women. I've been to the police. I've been to the government. Nothing. What would you do? I said, well, Susan, I don't know. I don't know your financial situation. You could donate $5,000. You could donate a penny. Well, what difference would a penny make? One of the other women on the call said, wait. What if everybody in your county donated a penny a day to help end violence against women? She went, oh my God. They created a program, this is so moving for me, called Making Change, in which she took a mason jar, put a picture of a woman on it, half her face beaten up, bruised, half her face bright with the light shining out, and said, I would like you to donate a penny a day or more, but a penny a day for a year. You can't put in a check for $3.65 and say, okay, that's it for the year. No. A penny. She did that in her county and the county next door. And this was in Canada. They raised $2,500 in the year. They took that to the government of Canada. It has a program called Status of Women, who gave them $100,000 for each of the subsequent 3 years, $300,000. She reports to me now that anywhere she goes in the county, people's first question is, what can I do to help?
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Let me give you a couple more, because you just see the range as we go up. We have a woman in Austria, Elizabeth, who said, oh, well, I know my project, because I was asking, what's your heaven on earth project? And she said, well, Austria is a heaven on earth nation. And I said, what? She said, well, yes, because Martin, it's simple. And she taught me the value of simple. I don't know what your simple is, but you do. For her, simple was Austria is a heaven on earth nation. She's taken a copy of my book, Project Heaven on Earth, to the president of the country. She's a Catholic. She organized on Halloween a session at the local monastery where people came in, they got a little magic wand, and they went around to different stations around the monastery, some of which asked the 3 heaven on earth questions that I just asked you, obviously in German. She went to the local priest who asked the 3 questions in one of his sermons. And this woman she gave away for Christmas one year shoes, and the sole was engraved in German with heaven on earth, Himmel auf Erden. And so that when people walk in the snow, they leave this pattern called heaven on earth.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
A woman in Santa Fe, New Mexico, wrote 75 of her family members and said, tell me what heaven on earth is for you. 44 of them wrote back. She turned that into her Christmas letter that year and sent them to all 75 of her family members. A woman in Portugal has translated my website, Project Heaven on Earth, into Portuguese. A newspaper in Dehradun, India, now has on its masthead, the editor-publisher interviewed me about Heaven on Earth. And I said, well, what are you doing for it? And I said, well, I don't know. What kind of... And we came up with this idea. On the masthead, every time the newspaper is published, only online now because of COVID, in capital letters, it says, Dehradun, a heaven on earth city. So every issue of that paper, people see Dehradun, a heaven on earth city. It goes into the consciousness of the entire city.
Wow.
And then one final one. I had this guy, Charles Chorore, from Gabon, the African country of Gabon. He heard me do this webinar on Heaven on Earth, and he said, that's it. And I'm saying, what? I have this project. I've wanted to do something for my continent, not only my country, my continent. He has a new program called Africa, a heaven on earth continent.
Wow.
And we have a guy in Canada who's getting his PhD in heaven on earth. So I know, it goes on and on and on, but I think you get that if you think of heaven on earth like that, it's a kind of metaphoric software program that allows this new possibility to exist. Like any software program, you download it, you open it up, you boot it up, and it says to you, okay, here's a whole bunch of new possibilities that you never even thought of. And I need your input. I need you to make it real. How are you going to do that?
This is so powerful throughout this whole season of my podcast. Everybody that I talk to, this is going to be how we start. I'm going to ask them the 3 questions. And I also have a business that I ask people their why, and I'm going to start asking them these 3 questions. And the 3 questions will ultimately become their why. So
Yes.
I'm really going to become a huge part of this because this is everything.
Oh, Lark, thank you. I just felt that from you from the beginning, how we're connected. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's important. Let me tell the listeners now, and you too, you cannot come in with question number 2. What's heaven on earth for you? It's too big a question. You have to do them in the order I gave you. Question 1, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on? What that does is it tells them, because they go to their own experience, that yes, I have had an experience of heaven on earth. I do know what heaven on earth is. And then you say, okay, here's a magic wand, and with it, you can have heaven on earth. You see, what the magic wand does, as I said, is it removes the necessity of having to know how. And if you don't have to know how, bang, you dive into the deep end with the what. And then the third question, what simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to make this real? Now you can get them engaged.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I love this so much. I mean, this is actually how we do it, by presenting and planting the seeds of awareness that it's even possible.
Now, very good. Notice that it had begun with, it's impossible. You can't have heaven on earth. And here's my proof: war, hunger, COVID, da 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 da. Now comes along this thought form called heaven on earth. What? No, that's crazy. You can't do that. And then we ask the 3 questions. They go, well, isn't that interesting? Something that was totally impossible, it's actually possible. That's a new realization. Then they move to, well, listen, maybe if I did what he's asking, if I do something simple, whatever that is, in the next 24 hours, I'll do this. And now all of a sudden, something that was impossible moves to possible, moves to probable, moves to actual reality. And then the momentum of the reality grows. Remember, when I started 30 years ago, it was just an idea. It was just an idea. And now look at it all over the world. And it's not just me. You have the same thought, Lark. Others around the world, Google Alerts telling us. If you go to Google and put in the phrase heaven on earth in quotes, heaven on earth in quotes, and then you put in 2020, you'll get a number. And then if you do the same thing for 2021, you'll get a number that's bigger than all of 2020 already. And we're not even through the year yet. It's growing globally. This consciousness of heaven on earth is coming in, not for you only, not for me only. It's coming in. I think it's divine. I mean, how did I pick it up? I knew the moment I heard the phrase heaven on earth, I went, oh, that's the next phase of my life.
I truly believe in our organic collective consciousness, that we have our own cloud that we all pick up on one another. And I just feel God really pouring into that and whispering to us through our higher selves, it is time. It is time for us to change the narrative and to really bring this in. And
yes, and yes. And that it's possible, and that you're not crazy, you're not alone. There are thousands and thousands of people all around the world. I did a blog post, when was it, about 4 or 5 months ago, in which I looked at the phrase heaven on earth in different languages to see the growth between 2020 and halfway through 2021. Enormous growth, enormous, in multiple languages.
And it feels so good as, we're exploring this, to know that we have one another and that we're finding one another. And the ways that we're finding one another are, nothing but miraculous.
So
totally. I mean, who is this woman Lark, and where? Texas, and currently Martin Rutte in this little village in Prince Edward Island, Canada, talking to each other as one. It is remarkable, Lark. I mean, really, when you think about it, right? And we're talking on the internet, and we're at different time zones. We're thousands of miles apart. We have different backgrounds. Doesn't matter.
yes. Yes. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. And I know that we're going to stay in contact, and I look forward to sharing throughout the rest of the year and throughout the rest of my life as I'm asking your questions to others and the impact it has. I promise I will always keep you up to date on what happens.
And I get you're a woman of your word, Lark. Very much so. You are. Well, let me do a little plugs here.
Okay, yes.
So the book on Amazon worldwide is Project Heaven on Earth. And so that's one title. And it has another title, which is Project Heaven on Earth.
Okay.
Right? As the verb and the noun. So Project Heaven on Earth, available on Amazon, Martin Rutte, Rutte. I'm asking you to buy 3 copies. Here's why. I'd like you to buy a copy for yourself. I'd like you to buy a copy for someone in your life right now who you know needs this. Just think of who that person is. And then I'd like you to buy another copy, the 3rd copy, for somebody who's going to come into your life, and you'll just know this book is for you. Here you go. So, and if you want to be really outrageous, you can do what's called the case for Heaven on Earth. If you buy 20 books from Amazon and send me the receipt to martin@projectheavenonearth.com, martin@projectheavenonearth.com, I will do a free Heaven on Earth consult with you, or a free Heaven on Earth webinar for your group.
I love that.
There's a woman, I got to tell you, I just did one and this woman bought a case, and she carries the case of books in her car. And when she meets somebody that she knows needs this, here's this book. She calls them the angels that she meets. Another woman bought a case and gave them out as her Christmas present to everybody. I'm amazed at how the whole thing is working. It's astonishing to me.
I love the Christmas idea, because that's what it's all about. That's what Christmas really is.
Really? Yeah. And also go to Project Heaven on Earth. There's a free 7-day course, and you can get also my free blog, which is important to get, because every week you'll get another facet, another look, another example of people who are doing Heaven on Earth, whether they call it that or not. So it normalizes it. The more you hear the phrase Heaven on Earth, the more normal it becomes, easier it is for you to talk about it and do it. So that it's very much about normalizing it through the book, through the website, through the blog. The more it's normal, the better. And then I want to leave you with one final example, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm on this island called Prince Edward Island. It is the smallest Canadian province, and it has a very special place in the psyche of the country, because the country was born here. Like in the US, it was Philadelphia. But here it's Prince Edward Island. And so about 20 years ago, I was doing a workshop here on Heaven on Earth. And I had this thought: Prince Edward Island is Canada's first Heaven on Earth province. And I dismissed that. No, that's nuts. You can't say that. And then I'm talking away, and again, it pops into my head. No, you can't say that. And then the 3rd time it popped into my head, and I said, okay, I get it. So I said, all right, declaration, Prince Edward Island, PEI, is Canada's first Heaven on Earth province. Since that time, I have a cafe who's created a Heaven on Earth coffee. I have a tea merchant who's blended a Heaven on Earth teas from all around the world, and rose petals from Heaven on Earth for harmony. We have the Kiwanis Club, which is a service club, has a Heaven on Earth Leadership Award open to any student in public or high school. 3 summers ago, I interviewed each of the 4 political party leaders, including the premier, which is equivalent in the US to governor, and asked them, what's Heaven on Earth for you, for this province, and for our world? They each answered, and I took that and made that into a video. And I'm also, this is my one I just love, there's a drug and alcohol rehab center here, long-term, 3 months to a year. So I went to the woman who's in charge, she's a mutual friend, and I said, a mutual friend introduced me, and I said, I'd like to do a lecture every week on Heaven on Earth. And I'm looking at her and going, nah, this isn't going to work. I can see it in her face. And she listens. She says, okay, let's do it. I've been doing it for a year now. once a week with people who have been, when I say heavy duty, I mean heavy duty drugs and alcohol, sometimes both. And it's a minimum of 3 months up to a year. And every week we do heaven on earth, heaven on earth, heaven on earth, because drug and alcohol abuse is all about me. It's all inner. And once that's healed and cleaned up, you kind of come out into the world. You come out into the world and you want to contribute. So what's your definition of heaven on earth and how are you going to contribute? And that's what I do every week. All of that, Prince Edward Island, Canada's first heaven on earth province. And it was just a declaration. That's how it started. That's how all of this starts.
Yeah, just putting it out there and then seeing where other people can bring their special touch to it. And I love rose tea, by the way. It's amazing. And I have to tell you, this gave me chills. So my phone is beside me and I'm in a Telegram group and it just popped up, Heaven on Earth Experience notified you.
What?
Yes, I'll send you a screenshot of it when I email you later. And it says, I don't know what the whole thing says, but it starts with divine humanity.
Oh my God.
I screenshotted it and I'll send it to you. It's I feel like God is just showing off now. So
I got to just sit down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I have like full body chills right now. It's very impactful.
I'm in a little bit of shock.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lark. Thank you, God. Thank you, everybody who's listening. I don't know what else to say. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I feel like I've known you for unbelievable and not unbelievable.
Thank you so much for being on. And I see another coming back and doing a full circle moment with a bird's eye view at some point too, where we can discuss where we're at after we've both processed our first podcast together.
Lovely, lovely. With pleasure, Lark. With great pleasure.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in.
Hello to the daughter and the husband.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Until we meet again. And thank you for everyone that tuned in. You are all here for a reason.
Thank you for joining me today on Heal into Happy. My prayer is that you have gained more insight into your healing journey and that you are one step closer to loving yourself more fully in this now moment. And if you could do me a favor, please leave me a 5-star review over on iTunes. My passion is empowering others on their healing journey, and with your review, you may help others struggling to heal find this message. Be sure to visit me at healintohappy.com for past episodes and more ways to connect with me. Also, please always remember that I am offering you so much love and light as I celebrate the divine sovereign being that I see in you.